Oh, there's sound. We're just not started yet. Know what I'm saying? Let the bodies hit the floor. 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 You ready? Are you ready for this? All right. Boom! Good morning and welcome, everybody. I'm going to close my door because of the echo. Stroll on over. Welcome to the Crypto Mining Show, your one-stop shop for all cryptocurrency news from the perspective of a cryptocurrency miner. On the interwebs, I go by Blind Run, and in real life, I go by Matthew. Today, we have tons of fun news. Of course, most of you should be aware. This weekend, we covered the 100% light hash rate unlock multiple times, multiple different pieces of software. It's been covered to death, but we will be talking about it. I did hear some rumblings of T-Rex having released one, but I don't have a link or any confirmation to it at this time. Maybe we'll get it while we stream. Of course, the markets are down, and a lot of that has to do with traditional markets as well. So we'll be talking a little bit about that. Intel Arc has delayed yet again. We have the New York New York mining moratorium odds just got a lot worse. We're going to be talking about that. That's mining in New York. It's been a problem. NVIDIA and AMD GPU prices have fallen and are now just 14% over MSRP. AMD's only 6% over MSRP, and we have NB Miner version 41 and LOL Miner version 1.49. We'll get into it right after a word from the show's sponsor. Today's sponsor is Crypto.com. Crypto.com is my go-to centralized exchange for liquidating my crypto assets. With their Crypto.com Visa debit card, I can load up my mined Ethereum to pay for power and other operating costs quickly while earning up to 8% cash back. In addition to the Visa debit card, there are additional fiat options, including wire transfers, to easily receive your profits. Crypto.com also offers additional services, including trading and even staking, to earn additional revenue on your investments. Join 10 million plus users buying and selling 100 plus cryptocurrencies at true cost by using my affiliate link in the description for a $25 funding bonus. Or enter referral code SOAT at sign up for the same bonus. Remember, cryptocurrency investment comes with significant risks, so do your own research. And we are back. Welcome back, everybody. We will be getting the T-Rex miner info maybe at the end of the show. My understanding is they do have a direct link in their Discord. I'm assuming because it is in beta. That being said, LOL Miner released their version 1.49 in really funny timing a couple days ago. We'll cover the patch notes and then you'll see why it's funny timing and unfortunate, right? They did improve light hash rate V2 cards up to almost 80%, on the 3060 V1 up to 87%, and that was with the driver 460.39. They added an experimental zombie mode for NVIDIA Pascal Generation 5 gigabyte cards, allowing them to continue mining Ethereum after Epoch 492 in Linux only. They reduced the fee for the light hash rate unlocker back to 0.7%. And it says now all ETH hash solo codes have only a 0.7% fee again. Light hash rate cards have memory junction temperature sensors, and they will automatically throttle light hash rate unlock by 0.4 to 0.5% when hitting 106 degrees Celsius memory clock to prevent unneeded locks. Light hash rate calibration on startup now taking approximately 2 minutes, and they extended the CRC table. As you guys may know, though, we ended up seeing NiceHash Quick Miner on Saturday release 100% unlock, which we tested on this channel. And we tested the 3060 V1 or V2, excuse me, the 3070 Ti and the 3080 Ti. Now, in that particular case, I've been kind of talking about it, how it was kind of impossible to prove that the hash rate was real because we didn't see it on the network. And of course, you couldn't point it to a pool. But then the next day, NB Miner goes ahead and launches their setup for 100% light hash rate unlock with version 41. And obviously this makes poor old LOL Miner hitting 80% unlock kind of pointless, unfortunately for them. 100% light hash rate unlock added for both Windows and Linux on NB Miner version 41, released yesterday. You run NB Miner with admin privileges to get 100% light hash rate unlock. Tested and verified on drivers 5.12.15 for Windows and 5.10.60 for Linux. Other driver versions may have some compatibility issues. Previous light hash rate mode is removed. And then it has some notes here. If you run into issues, please change driver to recommended versions and set your mem clock 100 to 200 megahertz lower than previous light hash rate partial unlock situation. And there is another update. AMD GPU issue confirmed in this release. Will fix soon in the next one. Mixed rig users can use separate miners for AMD right now. So essentially what that means is if you are in Hive, you could just set up one miner, target the devices with the -D command, and then target the devices within an older version, older release of NB Miner. If you want to use NB Miner, I would recommend using Team Red Miner and specify the devices and extra arguments there as well. There has been lots of reports of mixed rig issues. It appears to be specifically, though, any AMD GPU on 41. So even if you have a non-mixed rig, version 41, if it's AMD only, you want to avoid right now. That's how I read it. Now, T-Rex Miner in their Discord, we're getting reports that they also have 100% light hash rate unlock. So we'll be looking into that one as well. Needless to say, I think at this point that obviously we are going to see an increase in hash rate, presumably on Ethereum, thanks to these improvements over the next week as people get it deployed and get the bugs worked out and all that sort of thing. There are quite a few people reporting multiple issues, random reboots with no errors, obviously issues with mixed rigs. T-Rex Miner doesn't seem to be much more stable at this point from my understanding, but we'll have to see. We also have apparently some more beta stuff coming from NB Miner as well. So lots of changing and moving parts. Stay with us in the channel. Remember, we're live Monday through Friday, 9:45 a.m. to 10:45 a.m. Central Time, and we'll be keeping up to date the best I can, as well as coming out with more information in the evenings while I'm working on it. So that's kind of where we're at. Now, you guys are probably fully aware of the crypto markets crashing. The good news that comes out of that is that, of course, we have a GPU pricing coming down significantly. Funny enough, though, there were some really, really good buys at the end of the week last week and kind of over the weekend for a little bit on the RTX 3070 Ti, where you could pick up even B stock at NVIDIA for about $600, and then everywhere else around $699, somewhere around there, they all started selling out of stock really quick because as you can see on the test bench back here, oh, it went down. Well, there you go. It's not reliable. We'll check that out. On the 3070 Ti, though, you are able to get on a 120 volt circuit with a gold rated power supply, 220 watts at the wall with 83 mega hash a second. So that really spurred on quite a few sales on that particular card, but there are still other options out there. That being said, overall, as we see reported by WCCF Tech, NVIDIA and AMD GPU pricing update for May 2022. GeForce graphics cards now 14% over MSRP and Radeon just over 6%. The latest NVIDIA GeForce and AMD Radeon GPU pricing update have been published by 3D Center and once again shows that we are a step closer to MSRP prices for gaming graphics cards. In the latest report by 3D Center, we can see that the GPU... All right, I think it's getting connected back up. This is not the right one. Okay, we're back. We got hit with something. Internet went off. They don't want crypto miners talking about GPU pricing. All right. Let's get back into it. Let's just wrap it from the beginning. So, GPU pricing is down. WCCF Tech reports NVIDIA and AMD GPU pricing update for May 2022. GeForce graphics cards now 14% over MSRP. Radeon at just 6% over MSRP. The latest NVIDIA GeForce and AMD Radeon GPU pricing update have been published by 3D Center and once again shows that we are a step closer to MSRP prices for gaming graphics cards. In the latest report by 3D Center, we can see that the GPU prices for both NVIDIA GeForce and AMD Radeon graphics cards continue to fall, which shouldn't be a surprise as the trend we have witnessed since the end of 2021. The NVIDIA GeForce RTX 30 series prices now average at around 14% over MSRP, while AMD's Radeon RX 6000 series averages with a selling price of 6% over MSRP. In addition to that, GPU supply is abundant, and currently there is no retail outlet in the world that doesn't have graphics cards on their store shelves, which wasn't the case a few quarters back. The red and green teams have also announced various promos such as Restocked and Reloaded by NVIDIA and AMD, also announcing how its Radeon RX 6000 series cards are available at MSRP levels. And then we have the chart that we've been following for a while here. And as you can see, back in May of last year, this time last year, we had NVIDIA GPUs at 318% over MSRP. And now it's just 114% over MSRP. AMD cards are around 216% at their peak, and they're down to 106%. It is important to note, because of the kind of timing of the releases of AMD and NVIDIA GPUs on the last release schedule, you did end up having kind of this release where AMD's third-party board manufacturers kind of launched their MSRP a little bit above what you would traditionally expect from the pricing on their GPUs. So the MSRP prices are a little skewed. I would say they're even kind of over what they would have been if they were trying to remain competitive with NVIDIA at the time. That was a little different with their 6800 and 6800 XT and the 6900 XT initially, if you recall. But once you started getting into the 6700 XT releases and below, their MSRPs were extremely high compared to the amount of performance you were really getting out of them. So they will need to even come down, in my opinion, below MSRP. They'll need adjusted MSRPs as well. So kind of that's my thoughts on it. Talking about AMD prices first, once again, almost all graphics cards within the RX 6000 series are now available between +1% and +10% of MSRP. It is only the Radeon RX 6800 series cards that are still selling for an average of 30 to 35% over MSRP. This has been the case with these cards since their launch. The NVIDIA lineup averages around 14% over MSRP, but it is just 3 cards at the moment, the 3050, the 3060 Ti, and the 3070, which are priced 20% over MSRP. And that's pretty interesting because nobody is picking up the 3050 for mining. The Enthusiast 3080 Ti can actually be found below the MSRP, which is impressive given that it offers performance similar to the 3090 Ti, which costs several $100s more. Also, it's important because 100% hash rate unlock makes it a pretty beastly card at 125 mega hash a second with around 300 to 340 watts at the wall. That is pretty good. I think a lot of people start picking those up for mining if it gets more and more stable, of course, because there are still stability issues there. But it will make it a lot more enticing than a 3090. Why is it more enticing than a 3090 or 3090 Ti? Well, the reason is that it only has 12 gigabytes of RAM. Now, in a lot of cases, people will be like, well, isn't more RAM better? And yes, but no in this particular situation, because what you end up with on the 3090, for example, is that you get memory modules on the back of the GPU, which is much more difficult to cool, which actually interprets into, unless you do modifications to the GPU itself, less hash rate average, right? So you end up getting throttled memory just because you can't get those memory modules on the back cooled down. So getting the same bandwidth with less memory on the 3080 Ti is why we are seeing basically better performance out of the 3080 Ti on Ethereum with the 100% light hash rate unlock. It's probably why it was important for the light hash rate locks to come in early for NVIDIA there. We recently saw the AMD Radeon RX 6900 XT being sold at $100 US below its MSRP over at Newegg. There are just a few cards that are currently in demand and would take a few months or a few more months to hit their MSRP figures, but the vast majority of the RTX 30 and the Radeon RX 6000 lineup is currently being sold at normal prices. This, along with prices now coming back or at MSRP, means that the GPU market is out of the worst and prices and availability can now go back to normal. And I think if we are talking about this completely objectively, this is an exact repeat of the previous super cycle, and it's kind of playing out this way. So how should you start reading it, right? And I think you should start reading it as a worst case scenario that we follow the traditional super cycle. Now, a lot of people calculate these prices a little bit different with cryptocurrency, right? Some people say because of institutional money, we won't fall as far. We won't fall below the 30K. I'm not a TA guy. None of this is financial advice. Other people say that you'll see the full percentage drop. So Ethereum, for example, would go down to 700. Bitcoin, even like, below 20K kind of thing. My perspective is typically going to be like following the previous all-time highs. We've talked about this before, so I would lean towards a 21K Bitcoin and $1,100 Ethereum. I'd like to hear your thoughts and opinions in the comment section below, as well as the chat. Of course, these are all the arguments that are surrounding it. We'll also be talking more about that in a second. But mining is also under attack still. The New York mining moratorium's odds just got a lot worse. The Senate Environmental Conservation Committee won't consider the controversial bill, according to a schedule released Thursday. A bill that aims to place a 2-year moratorium on certain types of proof-of-work crypto mining operations in New York was dealt a huge blow on Friday. The bill is sitting in the Senate Environmental Conservation Committee, but according to a schedule released early Friday morning, the committee has decided not to consider the bill during its last meeting of the session. The legislation has drawn ire from many in the crypto industry who fear that the moratorium, which in its current form is much narrower than an earlier version that sought to place an all-out ban on mining for 3 years, could be the beginning of a slippery slope that ends with crypto mining being banned in New York. So basically, we haven't been tracking this as much, and I do need to track it more. It slipped us last week, and I apologize for that. So we'll just continue on though. But there is also concern from both industry and lawmakers that the proposed moratorium, whether it becomes law or not, sends a bad signal to the crypto industry. They worry that the proposal could push business and the jobs and taxes that come with it out of the state. Quote, I think one of the biggest issues with the bill is that you have New York and moratorium in the same sentence, said John Olson, the New York State lead for the Blockchain Association. The assembly version of the bill, sponsored by Assemblywoman Anna Keys, I think it's Keys, right? A Democrat from upstate New York, passed last week. The Senate version of the bill, which is backed by State Senator Kevin Parker, must also pass in order to be signed into law by Governor Kathy Hochul. I'll go look that one up. It's a new governor, huh? I need to keep up. When a bill is referred to a committee, the committee can pass the bill either as is or with amendments, reject it or ignore it. The Environmental Conservation Committee chair by State Senator Ton Kaminsky, a Democrat who has previously voiced his opposition to the bill, has ignored the bill. While the committee's decision not to take up the bill for consideration makes it much more difficult for the bill to make it before the entire Senate for a vote, it's not impossible. If the leader of the Senate, Andrea Stewart Cousins, decides to bring the bill through the Rules Committee before the end of the current legislative session on June 2nd, and the bill is passed through the committee, it could still end up going before the entire Senate. Now, we've covered, the mining in New York to a great extent previously, especially as it pertains to the small little town where the crypto miners were building up and they got in a bunch of trouble and the town was a little grumpy about it. We covered all of that before, and it's kind of been expected that New York would potentially do something like this, especially considering that they do currently have some of the tightest regulations surrounding cryptocurrency. And the only thing I can really tell you is, I'm sorry if you're from New York, because it does seem like it's going to lean further and further towards more regulation of cryptocurrency. It's good news that this kind of got, basically pushed down the line. It looks like it might not go through all the way. Doesn't mean that they're not going to keep continuing to try, though. Also, I don't know, how is upstate New York's power cost outside of places like, the big cities? From my understanding, obviously in the small town up there, they had a couple spots where the power cost was quite low, hence why the miners ended up there. So it's not across the whole state where the power costs are really high. So it could be a good spot, especially because it stays nice and cool. Speaking of which, it's getting really hot in Texas, by the way, guys. The hottest it's ever been in May. It's absolutely nuts. It's killing me. All right, so Intel Arc Alchemist gaming graphics cards availability reportedly delayed till mid-summer. Drivers still problematic. Coming from WCCF Tech again, Intel's much anticipated Arc Alchemist gaming graphics card may very well be delayed into midsummer based on the latest information from Igor's lab. The graphics cards are scheduled for a launch by the end of Q2, but based on various problems related to the drivers, the launch is likely delayed. A few days ago, we reported the expected release timeframe of Intel's Arc Alchemist graphics card for the gaming segment. Based on the Alchemist Xe HPG architecture, the first Arc A series card were expected to hit store shelves by the end of this quarter. In fact, Intel already announced the top Arc limited edition graphics card for launch by the end of Q2 2022. Intel has also announced the winners of its scavenger hunt to be the first to get their hands on the new graphics cards even before they hit store shelves. But as of right now, reports regarding the proper launch are looking grim. Igor reports that based on various sources, Intel might postpone the actual availability of its gaming graphics card lineup till late summer. This sets a time period of July 1st till August 31st. Igor also reports that AIBs are becoming quite frustrated with Intel's planning and don't know when the graphics cards are going to actually launch. The reason, once again, is cited to be the drivers. You might remember our previous report that also cited how drivers are the main cause of delay, and Intel wants to sort out all the issues prior to releasing their cards. That's one reason why Intel has done a limited launch of its first Arc A series products in the Asian markets. The Arc A350M and Arc A370M GPUs for laptops are, as of right now, only available in select Asian regions and in select laptops. The US, EU, and other major regions are yet to get access to Arc-powered laptops. With the entry-level lineup being shipped in such limited volume, one can imagine just how low volume and high-end Arc 5 and Arc 7 series will get. As for how this delay affects the whole lineup, the final specifications have already been set in stone, so clocks and firmware are unlikely to change. But currently, the drivers are questionable at best. No one actually possesses the final drivers, and the ones that they have in their hands are either to camouflage the actual performance or just avoid negative reports through online press media. NVIDIA and AMD are already convinced, based on their findings, that their current offerings are competitive enough to tackle whatever Intel brings to the table in the form of the Arc Alchemist gaming graphics cards. The 3070 Ti 16 gigabytes cancellation and AMD not pushing the 6750 XT way higher than the RTX 3070 is evidence that both GPU giants are very confident with their existing lineups. A mid to late summer availability would also mean that the Intel lineup is going to end up super close to NVIDIA and AMD's next-gen graphics card launch, which are also expected around Q4 of 2022. Furthermore, all of these delays and driver issues don't bode well for Intel's first graphics launch. Plus, if this continues, then Intel could lose potential board partners, which would affect the rollout of their Arc graphics cards further. Overall, this isn't looking good at all, but hopefully Intel can put forward a better launch timeframe at its upcoming Vision event, followed by more detailed specs and pricing disclosures at Computex 2022 at the end of the month. Obviously, like, some of the big things that we were excited about was a lower cost 256-bit bus with the GDDR6 and hopefully the 16 gigabit per second memory. And we were going to be seeing, $500 GPUs during this time of super expensive GPUs, and then end up with like a decent mining option. But the market's shifting incredibly quickly right now. Why is the market shifting incredibly quickly? Well, obviously, because light hash rate 100% unlocks are here. We have the crypto market crashing, which is then translating into the prices of GPUs dropping. And now Intel, which was going to hopefully give us some sort of fun things to tinker with on the mining space, has delayed. And it doesn't really look like anything's very promising coming out of the Intel camp for anything, really, because if you can't get the software working, you can't get it working. If you guys aren't familiar with the team that's working on the Intel GPUs, it's fair to say or to point out that they used to work on the Radeon GPUs when Radeon was doing very poorly and had some of the worst drivers in existence. So my confidence level on their capabilities might be a little bit low. So I do want to just state that, like, if history tells us anything, they aren't necessarily the best, the best leadership for drivers specifically. But let's talk about the market wrap up, get you guys caught up. Bitcoin tumbles to the lowest since July of 2021 as market panic grows. Crypto slumped across the board all weekend and added to declines Monday morning as global equity markets swooned. The reality of tighter monetary policy continues to be felt in all markets, including crypto, with Bitcoin, which days ago topped $40,000 crumbling to as low as $32,500. You can see it's at $32,558 right now. Bitcoin lost the critical support level of 40,000 US dollars last week and did not hold above subsequent support levels at 38,000 and 35,800. It could drop to as low as 31,500 if current levels fail to hold. Crypto majors followed Bitcoin's drop. Ethereum lost 8.7% in the past 24 hours, while Cardano and Solana dipped as much as 10%. Meme coin Shiba Inu took an even bigger hit with a 13% fall. Liquidations on crypto tracked futures exceed 411 million US dollars in the past 24 hours, data show. Of that, some 140 million US dollars arose from Bitcoin futures and 121 million dollars came from Ethereum futures. Bitcoin's initial weekend declines came alongside Terra USD losing its peg to the dollar. The fall added steam on Sunday evening as Asian equity markets and the U.S. stock index futures opened sharply lower, with fears continuing to grow about the monetary response to surging inflation. Japan's Nikkei, something like that, ended the day. Oh, I should know how to pronounce this, shouldn't I? Let's just go do it real quick since I'm a dumbass. Let's do it. Let me make sure I know how to pronounce it. Let's do it. No, unmute. I did do it right the first time. All right. Nikkei ended the day 2.5% lower. Europe's stocks 600 is down 2% at midday, and NASDAQ futures are down 1.5%. The US dollar, meanwhile, continues to benefit from panicky markets, with the Australian dollar and Indian rupee notable losers today. Analysts previously warned about a drop in Bitcoin prices if the broader economic outlook continued to sour. Quote, professional money managers aren't loading up on high-risk growth assets currently, end quote, said Kurt, a trader at crypto fund ZeroCap, in a Telegram message last week. Quote, you can't look past the current headwinds and high correlation to traditional markets, end quote, he added at the time, warning about Bitcoin's current price correlation with U.S. markets, which we've been talking about. And we'll just jump back up on that soapbox and say Bitcoin should be separate from the rest of the crypto market, and Bitcoin should be a hedge against inflation and blah, blah, blah. And we can preach that all day, but it really doesn't matter, because what is reality is that it is following traditional markets. And a lot of that is due to, of course, the large institutional participation during the kind of previous bull run over this super cycle. It does mean that there is some evidence that the traditional Bitcoin super cycle is not in play here, and it's more of a traditional market play that is causing this downturn. And that would be a valid point to everybody that makes that point. So I will give you that. Will we see a traditional super cycle crash, down to that 21K Bitcoin? Well, maybe, but it also might not necessarily be due to the traditional super cycle, right? And so it's really going to be hard to really read this, especially as we see inflation just skyrocket. We see the economy really struggling right now. The stock market obviously tumbling and having tons of issues too. Let's look for any of the outliers. Let's look at the top losses on this as well, just so you guys get an idea. We have the top drops for the past 7 days at STEPN, which is GMT, at 32.28%. ApeCoin at 29.37%. That one's an interesting one because, we did talk about them potentially going to do their own chain. It really depends. I think really with ApeCoin, it depends on that news, because they do pretty much control the entire NFT market as far as like the perception of the NFT market, etc. So I'm kind of curious on that one. Terra, which we just saw kind of get that partnership up with Flux as a parallel asset, is down 28%, disappointingly. Kava down 23%, Stacks down 22%. It's blood in the water all the way down to Polkadot at 20%. And even Kronos here for Crow from crypto.com is down 19.76% over the 7-day. If we look at the 24-hour, though, the biggest drops are in Algorand, which pumped last night, surprisingly, by the way. So it's down 12.15%, but it's actually up 12% over the 7-day. They had a really big pump last night. We were streaming on twitch.tv/blindrun. I do that at 9 p.m. Central Time. Whenever I feel like it, we were playing some Elden Ring, looking at markets, minting some NFTs, and then boom, we saw Algorand pump. I'm not sure what that was about. I didn't really dig into it deep enough, but kind of funny that it has the biggest 24-hour drop, but technically for the 7-day, it's much better because of how much it pumped yesterday. Tezos down 11%. GMT down 10%. Shiba Inu down 10% over the day, almost 11%. Polkadot down 10%, and then Crow down 10%. So everything's pretty much dropped about 10%. Once you really get into this range, it's following Bitcoin, right? To a certain extent, it's to be expected, I suppose, is what I'm saying. 7-day positive runs, though. Tron at 16%. Tron's a really interesting one. I was noticing this yesterday too, with Tron kind of being the highest pumper. I don't know if this is in preparation for the Ethereum merge or what, because I haven't looked into the news, but let me know what you guys think. Tron is an interesting one because you can basically port over EVM very easily. 1inch Network up 13%. Algorand, like we talked about, up 12%. Waves, which I'm not clear on what that is up 11.74%. Curve up 5%. And Zilliqa, which this would be the first mineable one, by the way, up 3.64% over the past 7 days. Pretty interesting there. As far as other mineable coins, I don't think we have any that really pumped other than maybe Ryo, but I think Ryo is still down overall. We'll look at it in a second. It's not on the list. Monero was pumping yesterday as well and then came back down. Let's look at the 24-hour gains. Waves at almost 10%. Near Protocol at 5.4%. Lido DAO at 3.61%. Axie Infinity up 2%. In 1inch Network, we kind of drop off really kind of there as far as the gains go. So the entire market's pretty much red over the past 24 hours, except for the exception of Waves and Near Protocol. Everything else is going to be red. And then over the past 7 days, we had a little bit more light at the end of the tunnel in things like Tron. And of course, from the mining perspective, Zilliqa. And you can dual mine Zilliqa. Maybe we need to talk about that a little bit more. Let me know if you'd like a specific guide on that in the comment section below and or the live chat. So there you go. Let's go ahead and run. I don't have the 30-second ad. Just make sure that you go down in the description, guys, and check out the link for crypto.com. They're what I use to liquidate my assets, crypto assets, to pay for rent. I use the card a lot. My card is beat up. I need to get a new one because I use it so much. I need to not use it as much, but I use it for purchasing new GPUs. I use it for paying for power, and I use it for paying for rent from the mining farm. So my whole entire strategy has not necessarily been to hodl any coin. I've talked about this before, but my personal strategy, which is not financial advice, is to hodl equipment to mine the coin. And so I end up using my crypto a lot more than the average cryptocurrency participant for liquidating it and getting more equipment, because that's how I function. There are other people that do it in different ways. Large firms like to borrow money and hold their Bitcoin for a long time. I do not take out loans for my cryptocurrency farm, so I'm a little different as far as that is concerned. So I find that, once again, the crypto.com card does help me basically pay for bills and works in my current setup. So that's really where I'm at. And we are going to be changing up and shortening the ads for them and just running 2 throughout the show. One before we talk about the mining profitability and one at the beginning of the show, but they'll be much shorter than the ads that we've been running here recently. So just to be clear, those are the changes that are coming to the channel for that in particular. Let's talk about mining profitability though. It's pretty rough. It's just take a deep breath. It's rough, okay? So on Hivon, I have a reported hash rate of 4.41 gigahash a second with a real time of 4.26 and the average of 4 gigahash a second over the past 24 hours. Remember, I am mining Flux as well right now, but that is basically ending up returning 126 US dollars a day, which is about 0.05187 ETH. And then if I go to my payouts, you can see here yesterday, we had a payout of 0.051. So pretty much on point as far as all of that goes. Not really, like what I mean is we're pretty much sitting right around this 0.051, and the US dollar price, and that's for 4 gigahash, and the US dollar price now has obviously sunk down from, I mean, I think last week on Friday was 150 US dollars a day down to 126 US dollars a day. It's time for me to go get a real job, boys. Let's take a look at Flux, which we are sitting at around 800 solutions a second right now. That is interpreting into 9.69 coins, Flux coin for 24 hours at $11.34. If we include the parallel assets that are unlocked now, which we do have both of the parallel assets unlocked now, AVIX, well, not unlocked all the way. Once they turn blue, they'll be unlocked, but they're at least getting listed on Miner Pool. But for now, without those and just the initial 5, we're getting an additional 3.78 coins a day, which is $4.42. I am on Luck Pool with a couple, and then I have Darrow mining specifically to a Darrow node that I've built at my farm, which I know you guys want a how-to for. And I'd love to do it. But time's kind of getting a little crazy, and we also have the great Ethereum hash rate migration coming up this week that I got to get you guys prepped for. And then we got distracted, of course, this weekend with the 100% light hash rate unlocks and all that testing. But don't worry, I'm working on it. We're going to get it sorted and go from there. Let's look at what to mine for the RTX 3090 and sort this out, right? Calculate it. And Ethereum at 10 cents a kilowatt hour, or 7 cents a kilowatt hour. We need to change that to 10 cents. There we go. Let's calculate that out again. Is at $2.71 a day after power. Wow. It's rough. It's rough. It's rough. Ethereum threw nice hash at $2.61 a day after power. Sarah's at $2.04 a day after power. Flux on nice hash is at $2.09 a day after power. And Flux directly is $1.84 a day after power on the 3090. Pretty rough stuff. Equilibria at $1.87, Conflex at $1.59. We scroll down, we got Rio at $1.73 a day after power. Scrolling down even further, we have Ergo at $1.44 a day after power, and Z Classic at $1.39 a day after power. Ravencoin all the way down to $1.21 a day after power. Keep in mind, this is on an RTX 3090. And Ethereum Classic all the way down to $1.17 a day after power. And I'd like to tell you guys I think this gets better, but I think it gets worse before it gets better. So what do you got to do? Well, you got to get your power cheaper, and you got to get more equipment. And that is kind of what I am trying to figure out as well. Otherwise, your options is to just liquidate your GPUs, sell them to other people on the channel. I'm sure we have plenty of people here that will take them and take that bet at some point. But I think a lot of people that are purchasing or going to be purchasing GPUs are going to be kind of also holding off until they're at least MSRP and on the shelves. And then your used cards are going to have to be sold a little bit less. And I think that is kind of where we're at as far as that goes. And then if you want to continue to mine, like I said, your only option is to decrease your power costs and increase the amount of hash rate. And that's the way you got to survive this, right? And you got to make sure that you play those numbers out. I'm going to be trying to do it. I'll be talking about it and how I'm doing it and so on. How far do we really go down here is the question though. And that's kind of hard to tell. I don't really have an answer for you. You know, if we do have a continued drop on Ethereum, we could see basically, I think, flux for AMD GPU or NVIDIA GPUs being more profitable than Ethereum here soon, really soon, because with the market crash, along with, of course, the artificial difficulty increase due to the bomb, we could start seeing Ethereum just naturally be less profitable than some of these coins. However, there's a lot more hash rate on there. So it's going to be really weird to see how this starts to play out. And especially when we start getting more testing going for the Ethereum hash rate migration, which is once again, May 13th at 9:45 a.m. Central, 10:45 a.m. Eastern. So we got to get prepared for that. I am looking forward to checking chat and talking to you guys about this. Let's look at the hash rates going on here. Bitcoin. Also, I want to say thanks everybody for the 500 concurrent viewers. Be sure to hit the like button. Let's see if we can hit 200 likes, boys. So what do we got? We got 235 exahash a second. So still, even though we have decreases in the price of Bitcoin, the hash rate of Bitcoin is not decreasing along with it like it traditionally used to do. It is actually up about 3 exahash a second from Friday. And that means that the profitability on Bitcoin for Bitcoin ASICs is going to be extremely difficult. And this is something we've been talking about for a while. Another point, just another example of why it's hard to read whether this is a traditional super cycle or if this is really just following traditional markets. Because when we look at the hash rate of Bitcoin in the past, before we got a ton of institutional money in it, and a ton of just large firms, especially stateside, what you would typically see is the hash rate of Bitcoin kind of follow the price of Bitcoin. You would have expected basically the hash rate of Bitcoin to come back down with this recent drop over the weekend. However, the opposite is happening now. The price of Bitcoin is dropping. It's at 32,505, a 12 or 15% drop in the past 7 days. And we have an increase in hash rate of 3 exahash a second. This does mean there are other factors at play here for Bitcoin. From a home miner, small miner perspective, Bitcoin is very daunting because your margins are getting extremely tight. And unfortunately, with the larger firms, what they're able to do is work more directly with power companies or whatever and get better prices. They can kind of work those out. That some in areas where you really don't, like, we don't have access to those funds, which is kind of an argument against Bitcoin in general, just to be clear. And it is primarily due to the fact that it started with ASICs, right? And so I still am kind of in that boat where if I look at it objectively, I'm like anti-ASICs, right? Maybe we see ASIC prices come down though, but it doesn't feel like ASIC prices are going to come down because all we see is the hash rate continue to go up. So there's still a demand out there for all of these units, unfortunately. Let's look at Ethereum. Of course, as we saw this weekend, we got the 100% light hash rate unlock. Are we seeing an increase in hash rate? According to miningpoolstats.stream, we are not. It's at 1.07 petahash a second. That's really not up much or at all from last week. Why would this be? Well, if I had to take a bet, I would bet that the large farms that are trying to deploy this are having a ton of issues. So where do these issues derive from? Well, you have stability issues with the cards running, right? As you saw here with our overclocks, the 3070 Ti didn't make it through the entire stream. You also have most of the farms running Hive OS, and Hive OS is slammed so hard that a lot of these upgrades to pull the new update for the new drivers, pull all of that information, get all the rigs updated is very difficult because you're having connectivity issues. You're having kind of the Hive dashboard crash. You're having shell not function properly. A lot of stuff surrounding that. Now, what is your option around that? Use a different mining operating system. That is your option. And the reason for that is Hive is the #1 used one. So most large farms, most large companies are utilizing Hive. And if all of their machines are just slamming the servers trying to get all these updates, it's going to clog it all up. So if you really want to get out there with your light hash rate rig, I'm just saying there are other options. SMOS link down below. You can watch my SMOS video. That'll get you closer. If you'd like individual guides for light hash rate 100% unlock on any of these other ones, let me know which ones first you would like to see. Then you have miner stat, which I'm hearing is functioning properly. You have Rave OS. There are other options here. You may want to consider them, right? Windows, I guess, worst case as well. So there are different options to get around some of the issues that Hive OS is having. All right. You can get around it. Okie dokie. And those are some of the ideas I have to help you get around it. Ethereum Classic actually had a recent pump in hash rate from 26 terahash a second to 27 terahash a second today. And I think we're even lower on Friday. No, we were at 26. So a little bit of a pump in hash rate on Ethereum Classic. Zilliqa, we talked about this earlier. Maybe some dual mining Zilliqa is not a bad idea. Let's go ahead and look at Flux. All right, so Flux is at 1.97 mega solutions a second, a huge dip off from the 2.21 mega solutions a second. Where'd that come from? Well, clearly you can see when this started, which was Saturday, and the release of the 100% light hash rate unlock. What were people doing with their light hash rate GPUs before they were 100% unlocked on ETH? They were mining Flux. So it's clear that obviously as soon as the 100% hash rate unlock released, people did dip off of Flux with their light hash rate GPUs and go to support Ethereum. I'm disappointed, but I kind of understand. I'm on Flux still. That's me. I actually on Flux with my 3090s, by the way, too, which is fun. But let's look at the rest of these. Oh, Ergo. Ergo is at 15.5 terahash a second. I believe on Friday it was a little higher. Yeah, it was at 16. So it's dipped a little bit. Once again, it went through the little dip. They're not as pronounced here recently. I think since we've been talking about it, you guys are starting to figure this out. And we're making these curves a lot smoother. It's going to get to the point to where I think it stays steady. What is that point at hash rate? I don't know yet. But it is starting to kind of not be so nuts like these two huge diff problems we had the other day, or I guess a couple weeks ago, something like that. Last month, end of last month, when it was extremely difficult to mine it because you couldn't really tell what you were getting into. Ravencoin. Ravencoin's at 2.74 terahash a second. No huge changes in difficulty or hash rate. So there you go. Mining pool profitability. Oh, you can do periods now or monthly. Oh, that is fun. This monthly chart's interesting. It shows crazy pool at the top across every month. That's weird. Let's look at the period like we normally do. Last 90 days, mining pool hub in first, flex pool in second, F2 pool in third. Last 60 days, flex pool in first, mining pool hub in second, F2 pool in third. Last 30 days, mining pool hub in first, F2 pool in second, flex pool in third. Last 21 days, mining pool hub in first, F2 pool in second, flex pool in third. Last 14 days, mining pool hub in first, flex pool in second, F2 pool in third. Last 7 days, F2 pool in first, ether mine in second, nano pool in third. Last 3 days, ZET in first, F2 pool in second, ether mine in third. And for the last day, we have ZET in first, crazy pool in second, and nano pool in third. Whatever happened at ZET in the past day is pretty insane because it's showing 0.12 ETH. What's the 100 megahash? There we go. 0.002. It's like double what everything else is. That's wild. That can't be right. We'll have to go check that later. Anyways, if you're on ZET pool and that payout actually happened, congratulations on you, good sir. Taking a look at ASIC mining profitability, the KD6 is just taking a whopping, it's down to $45.44 a day. If you paid $60K for this, I apologize. I never told you to. In fact, I'm pretty sure I told you not to. But, you know, it is what it is. The KD5 is even worse, down $30. And miner L7, about $5 down from last Friday at $35. If we scroll down to the S19 Pro, I bet it's not looking that good, is it? Because difficulty went up, hash rate went up, price went down. Under $10 a day for a $10,000 machine, boys. Ugh. 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 There's your 1,000-day ROI. That's probably the worst I've seen on it ever. That's a rough one. That's a rough one. So I want to make this clear. I have no real affiliation with ETC BAYC, but I definitely like supporting. Basically, I want to support NFTs on a different network other than Ethereum. And I like playing around. And there's a mint going on right now for Mutant Ape Yacht Club on Ethereum Classic. These are classic apes. You also have their ETC BAYC, just the Bored Ape Yacht Club. It's kind of like a copy paste. You guys are probably familiar with those, or with the Ethereum version. Obviously, ApeCoin, all that we've talked about before. But I did go ahead and like mint a couple, that sort of stuff. So I have 2 comics minted, and I have 2 apes minted, and they're cool. I don't know. They're not that expensive. You can mint I have 1 mutant ape over here, and I think you can mint them for 2 Ethereum Classic, which at this point isn't too expensive. You can mint right now and once again, not financial advice, and I don't recommend it, blah, blah, blah. But if you wanted to mint a mutant ape, you can do that now over here on this website. And the floor went from 2 Ethereum Classic to 4 Ethereum Classic on the first one. So I guess that's the numbers. Will the mutant apes do better? I don't know. Anyways, kind of what it is. If we look at real time for Ethereum, our average block times are 14 seconds, and the average network hash rate is 990 terahash a second right now. Let's get into questions and answers. Remember, super chats are never required, always appreciated, first to be read, and that is because it highlights it, makes it very clear for me, and I appreciate it a lot because right now, obviously with the bear market and this being my full-time gig, we could use all the help we can get. Then if you tag at Son of a Tech, it will turn the message orange and I'll be able to read it easier. So please get that in. Also, we're at 176 likes. I'd like to see us hit 200 likes if possible. We have 543 concurrent viewers, which is amazing. So thanks for the turnout, guys. And let's get into it. All right. So question and answers time. We got Emin that says, at Son of a Tech, do you have an NFT guide or planning on one? Specifically on what? What guide in NFTs do you need? I have how to create an NFT on OpenSea. What other platforms would you like? What kind of guides for NFTs would you like? That sort of thing. There's a lot of stuff going on. The villain in this game says, ask Son of a Tech, how much hash rate has NiceHash gained since the 100% release? Pretty much didn't look like they gained much at all, if any. From the way we looked at the network, it's hard to tell. I've been trying to play with their API to get some more information, but I haven't really had a ton of success in parsing out the data yet. That being said, with NB Miner and T-Rex Miner having the 100% unlock as well, I think most farms will be leaning towards that as well, because the thing is like farms aren't going to typically deploy Windows across all those machines because there are huge licensing issues with Windows, and you really don't want to get in trouble with Microsoft at a large farm kind of operation, something like Hive or whatever. So they will be utilizing something like Hive OS or I should say HUD 8, excuse me, but Hive OS or SMOS or custom software that uses Linux. So they're probably going to wait on a Linux, even if they do use NiceHash, because if you use you can use NiceHash with like Hive OS, but you just point to basically the NiceHash servers, that sort of thing. So I didn't see it as being something that it didn't end up changing. Now, if we hadn't have seen a subsequent release from NB Miner and T-Rex Miner the very next day, I think that we would have started seeing more people deploy to NiceHash over the weekend or over this week, but that just didn't end up playing out that way, right? MMO Stars says, as Son of a Tech, did you manage to get Darrow on Hive OS working? Yes, Darrow works on Hive OS. For me, you have to like mess with some stuff. Dan San says, as Son of a Tech, does your streaming Twitch get recorded so you can see them? Yeah, they're always up. Like if you go over to the page now, you can watch the VODs. Tech Gamer Baby says, at Son of a Tech, why is my 5600 XT at 140 watts on the BIOS mod? How do I fix that? I don't know. You got to troubleshoot it. Turn it down. Turn down the voltage, bro. Christian Jensen says, at Son of a Tech, hey, did you also have issues with the 3060 Ti's overclock and stability on NB Miner? I don't have a 3060 Ti that is light hash rate. I only have non-light hash rate 3060 Ti. So the only ones I tested, and we'll be releasing my full, I'm planning on releasing the tuning guide for each one this week, but we tested the 3060, the 3070 Ti, and the 3080 Ti. So I did not test a 3060 Ti light hash rate because I don't have one. Dre, thanks for this $10 super chat. Says, what do you consider an appropriate amount of time to pay off a video card to justify the purchase? Dude, bro, that's up to you. Like, I was doing it when it was much higher. We're on the downturn now though. So we're not on the up, right? So I timed it last time to start buying on the up. I was buying cards with way over a year ROI kind of calculation, in preparation, you know, when you could get a 5700 XT for like $300. So now you're kind of on the downturn. So in theory, you would be sitting here waiting to purchase more when people start liquidating. That's what you would expect to do. And to be honest, with the threat of the merge and with the pricing going down, it is possible that places like HUD 8, you know, who are still on record saying they would just switch to mining Polygon Matic, may say we don't know what we're doing and liquidate whole farms, and then we get a ton of GPUs for super cheap. I look, it's impossible to tell you. It's really going to be up to your risk tolerance. That's your financial decision. The problem is, like I said before, to compensate for the price drop, to compensate for the reduction in revenue, you have to reduce your costs and increase the size of your farm. That's the only option you have to maintain. There's no other secret sauce out there that's going to like change that. So it's either liquidate now and get out, which I fully understand because the first super cycle, that's what I did, or expand and prep for the next run and try to have yourself in a place where the bear market doesn't completely break you, right? And you can cover your costs. That's the goal. But the only way to survive it is to build your farm larger and reduce your costs. That's the only things you can do. Alright, he says, have you staked any cake? No, why would I do that? Roboto says, ask Tech, do you think a single 1,000-watt EVGA gold power supply is enough for 6 RX 580 8GB Sapphire Nitros, or will it burn that PSU eventually? So you have to worry about, look, if you have them tuned in, right? Maybe you're like around 100 watts, somewhere like that, popping in. You're at 800 watts. You got a little bit of you got a 20% overhead there, but you didn't include the system. So really not quite. Probably bump up to like a 1200 watts, something like that. Oh, wait, you said 6 of them. Sorry, excuse me. 600 watts plus the 200. You're technically at the 80% rule. Still cutting it a little close. And you have to just make sure that you have those cards ready to lock in at those overclocks before you start mining, or at least at the reduction of the power consumption. Because you don't want it pulling a lot more and then spiking you over that 80% and potentially causing issues. So I still would probably feel more comfortable personally with like 1200 watts. But it will work and you'll probably be fine, especially if it's, if it was a platinum. It's just you are getting into that kind of, if something messes up, the overclocks don't get applied, all the cards pull full power, you could get yourself into some trouble there, right? Also, the other question would be, what are you powering the risers with? Because there's not going to be enough 6 pins off a 1,000-watt EVGA gold power supply to power your risers with 6 pins and still power the GPUs, if I recall, which means you end up using something like SATA power. Are you making sure you're putting those, are you making sure you're splitting those up properly so you don't burn up any cables? All of that, right? Dan Sand says, ask Tech, did you move all your ETH rigs to NB miner or waiting to get more stable? Look, man, no, I have 3 light hash rate cards. I haven't been buying light hash rate cards. So like, no, I have no reason. Why would I move in? No, I have mainly 5000 series, like 5700s and 5600 XTs primarily. And then I have, some 3090s. I have a bunch of 3070 non-light hash rate. I have a couple of 3060 Ti non-light hash rate, and then a bunch of 1660 supers. I'm not rocking light hash rate GPUs, so it's never been a concern. It won't change my farm at all. The only reason we have light hash rate GPUs is to test for the channel. That's the only reason I ever purchased them. I never purchased them to build a rig. Harmon Goodman says, ask Tech, can you explain the parallel assets on Flux? Sure. So a parallel asset is basically a wrapped version of Flux on another network. That could be Ethereum, Solana, Cadena, Terra, a couple others. What ends up happening there is that essentially whenever you mine, that you get paid out about 80% of that also in parallel assets total over the time. Currently, there will be 10 parallel assets. Currently, there are 5 that are active, 7 that are announced, meaning that you will be getting 2 more for sure at some point once everything is worked out. And the miners get paid out in those additional parallel assets. Most pools, like Miner Pool, which is the largest one, will do that conversion for you and basically bridge it out of whatever networks those are and then just pay you out in Flux. Some networks won't. You'll really need to check the pool for basically how that functions. That being said too, just to be clear, it's just all it is a parallel asset. That means a wrapped version of Flux on another network. Wrapped Flux on Ethereum, wrapped Flux on the Cadena, that sort of thing, right? Let's see. We already answered that. Snarks Domain says, Asymptotic got a light hash rate 3080 going at 104 mega hash a second at 238 watts software in Hive. 238. I mean, obviously like 104 mega hash a second is good. I feel like the power readings obviously are like kind of bunk. So it's hard to tell what that would actually be. For example, like the 3080 Ti they were testing in software showing like 148, but it's actually taking 340. So it's hard to really kind of figure that out. Then Lord Bear says, Asymptotic NB Miner 41.1 supposedly stable in the version yesterday. Did you see it? Yes, I did. Daniel says, Asymptotic T-Rex already unlocked 100%. Yes, I already saw it. We talked about it at the beginning of the show. Rad CPU Man says, Asymptotic 560 watching. I know, it's awesome. And we're at 247 likes. I wonder if we could get to 300 likes today before we ended the stream. Al Chang says, Asymptotic, just a note on Hive. There's a last minute maintenance coming up. Might not want to touch your rig. On top of NB Miner is dropping fan and hash rate randomly. And like I said, you may be well advised to go and utilize something other than Hive right now. If you want to do if you have light hash rate cards, you're wanting to deploy it today, other operating systems OS offerings are just as good for the most part, will get the job done, and will not be crowded like Hive. I love Hive. Hive has the most functionality out of pretty much all the operating systems from a perspective of managing a bunch of rigs, being able to manage other people's farms, share access. It's amazing. I'm just saying, if you want to get up and running, Rave OS isn't a bad option. Simple Mining's not a bad option. MinerStat's not a bad option. And if you just want to get your light hash rate rigs up and you want to sneak around all these other BS people, you could go look into that. John English says, Asymptotic, have you CentOS or Ubuntu for mining, or has it always... Well, Hive is just an Ubuntu image. 7how mining says, Asymptotic, what do you look for when looking for spec coins? Just hope I find it. Like, it's literally like if somebody's like, yo, there's a spec coin. I'm like, all right, let's go. That's because it's hard to just even find them, right? Like, a lot of these projects are not trying to get a bunch of hash rate on the network, usually, that sort of thing. Digital Fortress Mining says, Asymptotic, would you take two 5600 XTs or a 3060 Founders Edition if you had to choose one or other to buy at 400? Just curious what you would pick. I made the decision, blah, blah, blah. Wait, you would get two 5600 XTs for 400? That seems like a heck of a good deal to me. Or a single 3060 for 400. I don't know. I mean, obviously the problem with the 5600s is that they're pretty much a one-trick pony with Ethereum, right? But you could throw them on Ethereum Classic. You're getting a lot more hash, obviously. You're getting 80, almost 90 mega hash a second compared to a 3060, which is going to net you 50. So you're getting about 36 mega hash a second more out of the 5600 XTs. The Drem says, Asymptotic, I have a question. I have an EVGA XC3 3070 light hash rate that kept getting 0% fan speed. I decreased memory or added 10 to 15% more to the locked core. Is that the right approach? So keep getting 0% fan speed. I don't know why you have a fan glitch. So I don't know that changing your overclocks would change a fan glitch problem. But the best thing to always do is remove all your overclocks and see if the problem goes away, right? Like, you don't start adjusting overclocks because at that point, like, something's broken, you need to make sure it's not broken. So you need to just remove all the overclocks, see if that makes the problem go away. 0% fan speed issue doesn't seem to me to be something that would be related to an overclock. And then are you by the rig? Are the fans literally turning off, or are they staying on and it's just the software reading it? And then what are the temperatures at, right? Like, are you monitoring the core temperature and the memory temperature? What would make you think it's an overclock? Like, why would you jump straight to overclock if you don't know what the memory temperature's at, what the GPU core clock, you know what I mean? You got to go through step by step and start thinking critically about these problems. And that's a lot of what mining is. It's just troubleshooting. Once you kind of start to get down like the troubleshooting steps, then you can get yourself a lot closer too. Dan says, Ask Tech, when people say Bitcoin is for protecting us from inflation, does this mean people need to think about Bitcoin as a buy and hold asset like a savings account in order to work for it to be stable? So we can have a discussion about, basically, I would point you to, and look, I know a lot of people have a ton of opinions about like Michael Saylor or whatever, but the best, like when we start talking about the overall kind of economics of Bitcoin, what it's supposed to do, what it sounds like it should do, what it is doing, what are the options. Like the Lex Friedman, Michael Saylor podcast was really good because Lex Friedman's pretty good about saying, okay, hold on, step back, explain that to me. Even if it's something simple that you understand, maybe there's other people that don't understand it. And I don't know where your understanding level is for all of that terminology. And it was a really good podcast to kind of at least start to understand different terminologies. But Bitcoin as a whole, like the Michael Saylor idea, would be basically like a slow asset, right? Whereas like a house would be like a medium, and then I don't know. Anyways, somewhere along those lines. So yes, it is a longer term hold or hedge. That is as far as layer one Bitcoin goes. So there is like, and it's the idea of the sound money principle, blah, blah, blah. Go listen to it, kind of get a better idea as far as like your understanding of that. Once again, what I said is like, I would put Bitcoin over here in a different jar than everything else in crypto. However, what we see in reality is that it is following the traditional markets. So if I look at it right now, as I sit and pay attention to it, I would say, okay, well, it doesn't seem to be doing necessarily exactly what we thought it was going to do in times like this. So why is that? Will that change? And it's hard to tell. Possibly that changes, right? Because at some point you would end up running into at least a supply issue where the price goes up just from the supply alone. Where's that break happen? I'm not exactly sure, right? Daniel says, at Simon Tech, T-Rex 100% unlock is up at test release. Yes, we're aware. LeCoin DeCoin says, at Son of a Tech, do you have any thoughts about mining dedicated cards? Your resale is bad. But we are at the time. So if you were going to ask me about buying a mining dedicated card during a bull run or right before a bull run, that sort of thing, I would say no, because you don't have any resale value. You can't take that mining card and resell it to a gamer, right? That would be my initial. Here's where the caveat lies, and that's in a bear market where you can pick up mining specific cards for pennies on the dollar in bulk, potentially from places even like AliExpress, etc. And that's where things get interesting, because you can start to build out a farm, a very large farm, and use those cheap prices for preparation before the next bull run. So to me, it's really a market conditions perspective, right? Where you wouldn't want to buy it in a bull run or right before a bull run, because you're going to want something to sell off to liquidate potentially when you hit the bear market. However, if you're already in a bear market and you're picking up like P106s for 25 to 50 bucks a piece in bulk, you know what I mean? So that's kind of how I look at it from that perspective. And do you buy them now? No, maybe here in a little bit. And it'll be really fun to get some of these CMPs, because all these farms, they've been purchasing, sucking up all the CMPs. I haven't got to test one CMP card. So it'll be really nice to see these farms that are going to drop. Hopefully some of these will fail, and I'll be able to get a couple, like a line of CMP cards like the 170HX, etc., to go ahead and test for the channel. So I'm looking forward to that. Dan San says, ask Simon Tech, big coincidence that 100% unlock pops out days before the great hash rate migration. I don't think, here's the deal. I don't think that anybody thinks that the migration is going to affect Ethereum negatively, because I don't think that we have enough hash rate. You got guys like Hut 8, you got the ASIC miners. I don't think it's going to affect it that much. I think from our perspective, what we're trying to see is how much do the small miners affect the smaller coins, which it will have an impact on. Impact on things like Flux, impact on things like Ethereum Classic. Those are the impacts that we're looking for, because those are the impacts that we want to calculate for the future. We don't necessarily want to calculate the impact of hash rate coming off of Ethereum. I suppose there would be a benefit in general, or not a benefit, there could be a negative in general if there was enough hash rate that came off of Ethereum to increase the block times due to their artificial, difficulty increase. And the more hash rate that comes off of Ethereum, the higher the block times will go. But to think that they don't have like way more hash power sitting in ASICs with companies that are probably going to support them all the way down. Look, we've seen the interviews with InnoSilicon. The InnoSilicon straight up came out, or was it, yeah, the InnoSilicon, like the A11s and all that, they straight up came out in support of EIP 1559 against their own best interest. For why? I still don't know, but they did, right? Brandon with the $5 super chat says, any plans on scooping up some 3080 Ti's now that the unlockers are out? 120 megahash a second sounds pretty nice. I'll tell you my strategy, even though I don't want to, and I'll tell you what I'm doing. Once again, we talked about this. The reason why the 3080 Ti is special in this particular case is because it has the same memory bandwidth as the 3090, but it only has 12 gigabytes of video memory. Why does that matter? Well, because the 12 gigabytes of video memory means that there are no memory modules on the back side of the GPU, meaning the GPU is easier to cool, meaning that you end up with a higher average hash rate without any modifications to the GPU as the 3090. So currently I have about 9 or 10 3090s. One's in the main rig over here though, to be fair. My plan is to take my 3090s, list them on Facebook Marketplace, and straight up swap them for 3080 Ti's. I'm going to see if we can do it. I'm going to be listing them in multiple areas around Texas and making some long drives if I have to. But that's kind of what I'm thinking as far as that goes, if you're wondering. All right, that's going to wrap it up for today. Be sure to hit the like, comment, subscribe button, and notification bell down below. We broke 300 likes and maintained 500 concurrent viewers for most of the stream. I want to thank you guys for that support. Let's see if we can maintain 500 concurrent viewers tomorrow and crack another 300 likes, even in a bear market. Damn the man, save the empire. I'll see you next Tuesday.